Let's look at the months of October and see what the real estate market's doing in Rochester, New York. So what's up, guys? Got here, your favorite Nepali realtor. And in the last 7 days, what we're seeing here is a few things. Number one, this is very, very big, is 449 price decreases. Number two is 94 back on markets. And number three, for me at the very least, is this expired number. Because when we look at it, right, and again, most of these homes are actually in the 24-hour range. Like if you look at a lot of these homes, 156 that expired in the last 24 hours and only 300 in the last 7 days, meaning that we had almost a third of all of the expired that was prevalent in the last 24 hours. So today's obviously November 1st, and essentially what this means for you is a few things. Number one, most of the homes that are listed are going to expire either on the 31st or the 1st. It's just how it works, because I'm willing to bet you, even if it's 362, if I just go 3 days, this number is going to be just as high. Boom, 264, right? So pretty much there, essentially there. When you look at all this information and you look at all of this data, what does it tell you? First and foremost, it tells me that homes are still going on the open market. 831 new listings. Second, it tells me that there's still homes that are selling. 861 that sold. Third, it's telling me that homes are not selling as fast as they used to. With all this expired, as last month, we didn't have that much. Now, when we look at the data, the other thing that this tells me is this. We actually have more inventory now than we did last year. I'm going to show you this from the realist side, but here's that, right? So this is just single family residential. If we do cross properties with everything, there's 1,000 new listings. If we do just condos and townhouses, there's still more and more new listings. So that's really interesting from the overall perspective. I'm going to reset all this, take a look at just that. Now, if we look at just Monroe County, what do we get? And so when we look at just Monroe County alone, the last 7 days, we've had 64 that have expired. We have 175 that are new listed on the market, 158 that have sold, right? So even in just Monroe, which is here, I mean, we're still seeing homes that are selling. Like there's still 38 that are selling. So for the longest time, we've thought that a lot of these homes are going to go completely brink, meaning that we thought that homes were just going to stop selling, and that was never the case because supply has never met the demand of the people. The demand of the people is still pretty high. People want to start looking at active homes, and with that, because of that necessity, people are going to buy left and right. Death, divorce, diamonds, diapers, and what's the other one? Deployment. Those are the 5 reasons why people sell, right? So when you look at all these numbers, it tells me a few things. Homes are on the market, 64 that have expired, and 5 that are temporarily off the market, meaning that a lot of these homes, ladies and gentlemen, are still sitting, but also still selling. So with that being said, let's go look at the more data, because I want to show you something really unique. Let's look at just Monroe County. And things that I saw here, increase in active inventory, right? So all this data tells me that number one, we have less more homes on the market. Number three, these 3 things are going to function with each other. Obviously, active inventory and new listings go hand in hand, and closed sales don't, because, well, people aren't buying as much as they used to. And this was in the prior month. If we do the prior year, I'm sure we're going to have less inventory as well and less sales. Yep. Less active inventory and less closed sales. Now, the difference between this number and this number is this is just for this month, right? Active inventory is homes that are just sitting on the market for the longest period of time. So if we look at all counties and everywhere, what does this mean for, well, every single place? What are we going to see? I think we're going to see something interesting. What we're seeing here is still less closed sales. Overall, this number is down. Every single place, there's less inventory area wide. But for the most part, ladies and gentlemen, the median home price has gone up, meaning that people now have to pay more to get into a home, which is really still interesting. Let's go look at the market review and see what the market is saying for, well, every single thing. And then I want to look at the weekly reviews because I think that's the most important part for, well, a lot of this. When we look at the market review for just the last month alone, I can't wait for October's data to show up. That I'm really excited about. Yeah, it's still not there, but 13 months. So prior, in the last 13 months kind of thing, right? So compared to last year, it's more. I mean, what are we seeing? We're seeing more money. We're seeing less deals. We're seeing the same numbers of days on market, and we're seeing the same amount of list price received, which is really, really interesting because you would think in 2024, with less closed sales, that this number would go down. I'd figure this number would be like, at 100 or something. Why is it people are still getting more money, but there's less closed deals? That's an interesting dichotomy. So it doesn't really make sense to me. But this is also just the entire year, right? Like when we look at the data for the fluctuation of what we're seeing here, we notice a few things, right? First and foremost, in February, there were the least amount of homes sold. But at the same time, in February, in February, the median sale price dropped the most and the least amount of homes sold. So that's obviously prevalent right there. With active inventory, it also dropped the most right there. At the same time, the month supply went up, meaning that we had more inventory to mess around with due to all this other time frame there. What we're seeing here, ladies and gentlemen, is an inverse graph. Right there. Less closed sales, more days on market. Boom, 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 boom. But, for the most part, what we're seeing here, at least from this perspective, in the end perspective, is we're seeing the price has jumped back up, and it is going up and up. With inflation on the rise, you have to. It just makes sense, unfortunately. So that's every county. If I just do Monroe, like a doctor, Monroe doctrine, I thought that was pretty funny. What we're still going to see is the same trend, in my opinion. Yep, right there. So February still dropped, close sales number dropped, but for the most part, it was still just right there, right? Like you're seeing this graph right there in terms of comparison, that it's not moving that much. Now, when we compare the data to August, and I cannot wait for October's data to be released. I'm so excited about that. We're still seeing very similar numbers. Like for the most part, yes, we've had less sales, but the same price, And I think these two numbers are going to play a part because I think, in my opinion, this number has to drop if this number is dropping. It just makes sense, and here's why I think that's the case. So obviously, months worth of inventory went up 33%, which is really, really high. If this number is down, this number doesn't make sense. It's literally just law of supply and demand. If there is less demand, supply either has to, become cheaper or better. Basic laws of economics, right? We don't really teach that anymore, unfortunately. But this number has to drop. If this trend continues, this number has to drop because these other three numbers right there, ladies and gentlemen, you don't want these to be up. You don't want these numbers to be up. You want these numbers to be down as much as humanly possible. Right? Active inventory, you want this to be up. New listing, you want this to be up. But if you are looking to obviously get this number higher, if you're looking to make more money for it, you want this number to be up in conjunction with all of these. That's that. Let's look at the weekly trend, and then I'll give you my prediction for what I think is going to happen, at least in the next coming months, because my prediction is probably going to be, it's going to be different than you think it is, I promise you. So let's take a look at this here. Week's trend over there. Now, that's the sales price. Obviously, the sales price as of last year went up, but the sales price of last week went down. Now, why is that the case? Well, I think it's because less homes are selling. People aren't getting what they want. I promise you, my assistant sends me these every single week, and I give my opinion on it, and I don't look at this because I always want to be surprised. But I will tell you this. This is going to be in the red, and this is going to be in the red. I'm guessing this number is going to be in the red by like 40%. That's my opinion. I was close. So close. Almost there, right? Kind of thing. But yeah, I was wrong about this though. Okay, I was wrong. Week's ending is, wow, that's crazy. But compared to last year, we have less sales overall. Now this week, because I did this exact same graph last week for our private clients, and if you want that, just join the Rochester report. There's a link in my in my website somewhere. Um, it's crazy actually. This number was even lower last week when I looked at the data. I'll try to pull it up actually on my Instagram, but this number was even less. I think it was like 50%, which is absolutely ridiculously gnarly, right? So that's closed sales. We don't really worry about that. Percent of list price received. This is pretty important, but all of this is pretty similar. It's never moving that much. Days on market, it doesn't make that big of a difference. Like it's 10% because it's 1 day more, so it still doesn't make that much money. That big of a difference. When you look at how many, what the volume was from last week, obviously we're going to see a dip here. This number is always going to be down because we have inflation that's on the rise and people can't afford homes. So this number will always be down. This is where I'm comparing to, right? Because again, this is important because we're comparing it to what happened prior. So active inventory, I'm guessing this is going to go up. Oh, we have less inventory. Oh, wait, this is overall. So yeah, we have less inventory overall. Week's supply of inventory. We have more compared to last year. New pending sales. This is a good metric to look at. We have more than last week. That's interesting. That's interesting too. Whoa, because my opinion, I thought this would be down due to the nature of active homes being on the market, which is interesting indeed. New listings, we have less than last week, but more than last year, which does make sense. Wait, no, it doesn't really make sense now that I think about it. How come we have more than last year? What is, maybe the presidential election? Maybe people want to sell. I don't know. Yep, obviously original list price, it's going to be up because inflation. So how does inflation work? Let me explain that a little bit because I think that's a conundrum that a lot of people face. So the way that inflation works is essentially this. There's only so much supply that exists in the world. Now, if the thing that you're selling isn't demanded for, you can either sell it, well, you're going to have to sell it for either really cheap or make it extremely good for people to want it. Price and condition are the only things that you can control. And that's an inflation-based world. With everything, the cost of everything going so much more because there's more money being circulated in the GDP and the economy, it makes sense that all the homes have to go up in price as well because the material to purchase a new property, to do something else, has to go up as well. When you think about everything from just a purely circular standpoint, everything comes to be. If you're looking to build a new home, the home builder has to employ people. They have to get the material. They have to get the contractors, engineering, all those things. And when the baseline of purchase for all of those products goes up, the cost of that product has to go up as well, simply due to the nature of making profit. Now, if these companies weren't in it to make profit, number one, they wouldn't be in the business. It doesn't make sense. And number two, if they weren't to make profit, then we could control that shit. Then we could control that. Yeah, just keep it. Then we can control that stuff. But for the most part, they're in there for profit, right? So that's just kind of how it works. The issue, at least in my opinion, a lot of people ask about how to control inflation, how we did this, how we did that. I think interest rates just stayed low for way too long. Interest rates were around 2%, 3% for many years, and that was the issue. I think Biden's economic plan didn't work the way that it wanted to with inflation. I also think the money that we were giving away was giving away to the wrong people. And that all played a massive role. We were literally printing trillions of dollars, right? So just nuts when you think about it. But that being said, inflation, at least from 2022, is being controlled. Now from 2020, it's still like 40% up. So in my opinion, we need to get more home builders. We need to incentivize more companies to start building homes. And then obviously start, having some form of taxation on specific requirements, right? So like, for example, every single thing with energy, with all those resources that are being applicable, if we can profit off of that, we don't have to worry about homes. And then we can use that money to obviously make home prices as low as possible and then take that into circulation as well. Giving tax credit to home builders so they can make these costs less for the average consumer is also the best bet. In my opinion, you can say whatever you want to say in the comment section. We can have a conversation. It's totally cool with me. So unsold listings as of last week, down 1.1%. Whoa, 51% as of last week. High number. Unsold listings, because if we look at the same time last year, we had 121. Wow. 183. Crazy. Okay. Cash sales, I mean, this it's not going to matter that much. Closed units. Interesting. So that's kind of what the data shows. Now, if you look at it from the market's insight standpoint, and this is probably the last or second and last thing I'll show, is overall, I mean, like, the trend is just there. You know, like we were able to buy a house for $100,000 in 2026. Obviously, this is all going to dip and go up, and it's just the months, right? So this is two, and then because February is when the least amount of sales happen, and it goes up. So this is kind of what that area looks like. If you look at the price, and then we could do property type, but for what? Yeah. Condos, single family, right? They kind of fell into the same things. Condos dipped down. They dipped down really fast, which is surprising. But that's kind of what that looks like from a pricing insight standpoint. And for the most part, it's just going to be the same. Let's see here. Monroe. There we go. Yep. So this was the median right here. There's obviously a few outliers, you know, like in terms of square foot price, because this is what that is right there. 3.2 million for 300 square feet, 1.49. There's like a little, you know, not that much, but there's a few here at this price point that you're kind of looking at. But for the most part, a lot of it is going to be in that 250 range, give or take. So it's like right there. And then obviously there's more there and less in the other area. Let me show you what I mean by my Instagram, because I did a post about this and I think it's important. So let's get there real quick. Well, guys, I tried to do the thing where I show that thing in my Instagram post, but for whatever reason, it won't let me. With that being said, that was the information about what's happening last month. I'm interested to see what happens in October. If you're thinking about making a move to Rochester, New York, here's what you gotta know. Well, I'm thinking about making a move to New York. Just give me a call and I'll handle the other 9, I promise. Watch this video over here to figure out what's going on with the numbers, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.